Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a GeForce RTX 5080 in The Last of Us Part 1. This one is the Founders Edition model of the card. I'm running it with the latest Nvidia drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power Up's GPU-Z, and over on the left, I'm pairing it with a Ryzen 7 9800X 3D and 32GB of RAM, which is now the second most valuable thing in this PC, I guess. Moving on, let's get into it, shall we? First up, let's go over the settings. I am starting at 4K resolution here using Nvidia DLAA as the anti-aliasing. This is still 100% resolution scale. And on the advanced settings, I set everything to the maximum here, aside from motion blur, which I disabled. So that's why it says custom. Let's go. Oh, one more thing, I did override the DLSS version to the latest version here in the Nvidia app, so it's using DLSS4. For that, you just go to the Nvidia app, go to Graphics, find The Last of Us Part 1, there it is, click it, and scroll down until you see the DLSS override model preset and set that to latest. Then it's gonna use DLSS4 here in this beautiful title and make it even more beautiful. And well guys, here we have it, The Last of Us Part 1 on PC, which is actually more intensive than the Part 2. Also, I will be running the benchmarks with the flashlight enabled. As you can see, that does drop your FPS by just a couple of frames, but it makes a little bit of a difference. And let's start counting our FPS right now. Just gonna play through this level here as usual, see the FPS. This is also a very intensive level in The Last of Us Part 1, so it's likely that it's not going to drop from what we see here in terms of FPS later on into the game. I've also played the entire game through during benchmarks here in videos, and there's only one single area that's more intensive than this one, and it only drops like a couple of more frames. So since we're seeing like 65 plus FPS pretty much at all times here, that means that it won't drop from 60 FPS at 4K max settings with the 5080 without motion blur, but you know, motion blur doesn't really affect the FPS too much. So even if you like that setting, you can enable it and not lose a lot of FPS. The experience will be very similar. Over here, by the way, it's starting to drop a little bit to 62 frames per second. So I actually forgot that there are more intensive parts in this benchmark run. It's not only the first part over there, looking at this capital area. This actually looks really good, by the way. Also, we don't have the over-sharpened look anymore since we're utilizing DLAA this time around. If you utilize the DLSS version that comes baked into the game, it will look over-sharpened and it's a little bit off-putting, honestly. So let's start counting our FPS here in this inside area. Okay, it's getting like 60 to 70 still, very similar frame rates to what we saw before. The DLAA also is a little bit more intensive than like TAA and stuff like that, but obviously TAA will look blurry as usual in games. And over here, ooh, dropping into the 50s, look at that. Holy crap. So 55 FPS is the minimum so far, 51, 49. Wow. Well, I wasn't really expecting that. Again, it's been a really long time since I tested this game, but yeah, just going back to this, first of all, it looks amazing still. I'm not even sure if it looks better than The Last of Us Part 2 remastered on PC, because this game is just gorgeous, and the other one was a slight remake of the PS4 version, not really that much different from that. Anyway, as you can see, this drops quite a lot from 60 FPS. At the beginning, I thought it wouldn't, because, again, I forgot that there were more intensive areas here in my benchmark run, but yeah, now that we're seeing this, I would not really play at these settings. Also, the power utilization of the 5080 is surprisingly low right now at 200 watts. I'm not sure why that is. It depends on the game, of course. In some games, it will reach the 350 watts and stuff like that. In other titles, it won't, and this game is one of those. Oh boy, come on, come on, come on, come on. There we go. All right, so it's really hard to aim here with 40-ish frames per second. It's not impossible. I'm playing the game. The game is still smooth without stuttering issues, which is very nice and kind of a breath of fresh air. Honestly, especially if you compare it to UE5 titles, you know, and if you've been playing a lot of those. Come on, there we go, got him, good stuff. But yeah, it doesn't stutter, but the performance is pretty damn low, actually. So, since we are using DLSS4, I would definitely recommend you to either overclock the card or utilize DLSS quality instead, because this will render the game now at 2560 by 1440. It will still look like native 4K resolution. I'll just add just a tiny bit of sharpness here, 10%, just so it looks pretty much the same. And yeah, I cannot tell a difference, guys, in terms of visuals, yet our FPS are now really damn good, right? 80s, 70s, not dropping anymore, and over here we would be getting 40s and 50s, mostly 50s actually, but yeah, you can see that massive difference in frame rate. Obviously, it's a much smoother experience, way more responsive as well, because we're now above 60 FPS all of the time, so moving the camera around, and that's why I keep making this movement here, moving the camera around feels amazing, snappier, you know, it's going to be a lot easier to shoot people and so on, so this is definitely the way. Now, over here with DLSS quality, once again, I can't see a difference in visuals, even while moving. There's a little bit of shimmering in the water, but I think that was still there with the DLAA. Again, DLSS4 is doing a fantastic job here. It looks absolutely beautiful. And now we're getting 100 FPS here at the start. Down into the 80s at the end, as you saw already. But yeah, let's play this through again and see the fluctuations of FPS in that middle part of the benchmark run with the vegetation and so on. It also dropped a lot previously, so I'm wondering how much it will drop to right now. But this is a way better experience, and for some reason, power utilization is actually higher now with DLSS quality. That's like the opposite of what happens 99% of the times. You add DLSS, power utilization is actually lower usually, but in this one, it's a little bit higher, as you can see. It also could be dependent on the area where we are, of course. With more vegetation comes higher power utilization, and with less vegetation, like right here, comes lower power utilization, 240, 250 watts. So yeah, anyway, all I'm saying is GPU is not underperforming. Some of you might think that it is broken or something. No, this is exactly how it should be behaving. Around here, I wanted to take a look at those letters over there and see how far we can go and still read them with DLSS quality. Because with the DLSS version that comes baked into this game, it's really hard to read that once you start utilizing DLSS quality because of the over-sharpening. But here, you can still read even the tiny letters there. So, DLSS4 quality, again, is the way to go. You get good frame rates, you get very clean visuals, no noise at all. This shimmering, maybe this wasn't here before, but yeah, that's minor. It's amazing, all right? This is what you should utilize. And instead of dropping into the 50s around here, we're now dropping into the 70s. And instead of dropping into the 40s here, also power utilization went down again, 230 watts sometimes, especially looking in that direction. Look at that. Wow, that's really low. But over in this area, as you can see, 70 FPS, 69. It drops down to 69 frames per second. That's perfect, guys. That is better than dropping to like 75. I will pick dropping into 69 all day long instead of any other number, aside from like 420 if you use like multi-frame generations and stuff like that. But I don't think this game is utilizing the DLSS-FG. At least I couldn't override that in the Nvidia app. Did that flag just pop out of nowhere? Wait, let's try that again. Yes. What the heck? Okay. Anyway, guys, this is a lot more stable. Again, it's a lot more enjoyable with DLSS quality, and this is how you should play this game if you have a 4K monitor and you want to play this. You're not losing anything, basically. Again, if anything, this actually looks better than TAA. Oh boy, come on. You know what? Let me go outside and fight them outside, because I like to be outside for a longer period of time. It's a little bit more intensive. Look in this direction. 69 once again. Look at that. All right. Oh, come on, Joel. Please reload. Please. Oh my God. Okay. You know what? No, thank you, Ellie. She's helping us. Oh boy. Okay, there we go. No. Come on. Stop it. stop it, you bastard! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Okay, I'm fine. There we go. Whoo! There we go, another one. Come on, come on. There we go, another one. And let's reload this. I'm really low HP at the moment. But yeah, this fight was a lot more enjoyable with these FPS, guys. Let me tell you that. Did you die? No? Okay. Okay. Oh boy, one bullet left. No! No! Oh, I'm dead. Are you kidding me? Well, that was good timing anyways, because we need to change it to DLSS Performance next. All right, and this... well, it's not here. Okay, wait. These menus are weird sometimes. Okay, it's right here. Yeah. DLSS Performance renders the game at 1080p resolution, and it upscales it then to 4K. And honestly, guys... It looks... almost the same, but now we're getting 100 plus consistently. Damn. Okay, no, those barbed wires there, I think those look a little bit more fuzzy, but that's it. Like, even the grass at the distance over there, while moving, YouTube compression ruins that, so you can't really tell, but I can tell you, that looks pin sharp still at the distance. And that's the beauty of DLSS4, my friends. Okay, while moving, I'm noticing this. While moving, there is a noticeable halo effect of noise around Joel's hair. It's only on the hair, though. So it's not really that big of a deal. But there is a little bit of artifacting there coming from DLSS Performance and the upscaling. And I can also notice here, on the water, there is a little bit more noise. But again, that's really minor, honestly. Those are small visual imperfections, especially considering that we're rendering the game now at 1080p resolution and upscaling it to 4K. That's pretty insane. So if you want to achieve a smoother frame rate, a high refresh rate experience here in this one, because this is 100 plus so far, this is the way. DLSS Performance is going to be the best option here at 4K resolution. You can still see those letters, the tiny ones, very clearly, even at the distance. And I was zooming in there, but even if I don't zoom in, that looked great. Yeah. Now I start seeing a little bit of fuzziness, but I can still kind of read. I needed to get closer to the monitor, though. With my new setup here, the monitor is a little bit far away from usual, so anyway, but I can fit 3 monitors to test 3 different resolutions, which is very nice. Anyway, let's keep on going here. 110 FPS, 105. Oh, dropping into the 90s there. Okay. Not bad, though. It's still pretty stable, of course, and it still feels like a high refresh rate experience, but it can drop into the 80s. Look at this. This game is really intensive, even though it didn't come out this year. So yeah, this game was a GPU melter, basically, when it released. But it has been optimized since then. It's running a little bit better. It's more stable as well. Zero stuttering issues, especially if you don't run out of VRAM, of course. And yeah. It performs super smoothly, and now with the DLSS4 and the 5080 that we're testing it with, it's a great experience. To be expected, obviously. It should be a great experience with a $1,000 GPU. Honestly, if anything, a $1,000 GPU should be getting more than 60 FPS 100% of the time at 4K native resolution. But who am I to dictate what a $1,000 GPUs should be getting, right? Because people keep buying them, so... this is obviously great, right? They're obviously fine with dropping from 60 FPS for $1,000, unfortunately. Oh boy, anyway. But don't get me wrong, the 5080 is a very expensive GPU. It's very underwhelming compared to last generation in terms of the performance. Because it's basically 4080 super overclocked performance, you know? It's not really that big of a deal for the same price as that 4080 super. So you're not really missing out on anything if you bought a 4080 or 4080 Super. Again, you can overclock it and get close to 4090 levels of performance, but not many people do that. Yeah, 5080 is just not great value, in my opinion. Maybe on Black Friday sales or Christmas sales and stuff like that, you can find it for less than $1,000, and then it's actually a decent buy. But I feel like the 5070 Ti is the best of this generation in terms of value, because it provides 10% slower performance than this or 15% slower performance than this. So it's still a very viable option for 4K gaming with DLSS. And it's not like you don't need DLSS with this one, right? So yeah, both of them will use DLSS at 4K resolution, and that's 25% cheaper. And when you find the 5070 Ti at MSRP or on sale, it's a pretty decent deal. Just like the 9070 XT is a pretty decent deal. Those are the two sweet spots of this generation, all right? 9070 XT, maybe 9070 as well, and the 5070 Ti. Unfortunately, I still haven't tested the 9070 XT because AMD told me they'd send it, and they never did, so yeah, I don't know. And then I moved to another house, and I can't be spending $700 on a GPU, but maybe I will. My girlfriend will kill me, though. Anyway, let's move on now to 1440p resolution. And I'll keep these a little bit shorter here at the lower resolutions because it's obviously going to perform very well here. So we're using 1440p with DLAA at the moment. Oh yes, wait a second. Let's try a little bit of frame generate. Wait! Of course, this game only utilizes FSR frame generation. They didn't bother implementing the DLSS FG for some reason. That's really weird. And it is frame generation from FSR 3.1, but apparently we can't use it with DLSS at the same time. I can't turn it on, so we need FSR to enable frame generation. And, well, I'm just gonna set it to quality here, but I can tell you that this is way worse looking. Oh my god. Yeah, okay, so the FPS are higher, of course, but this looks a lot worse than performance DLSS. So just use performance DLSS if you want to max out your frame rates at 4K resolution and get pretty good frame rates. Because this is super noisy right now. It's really shimmery. It is noticeably a lower resolution. Okay, whereas performance DLSS4 was not noticeably a lower resolution. Okay, so now let's try it at 1440p resolution native. Okay, so this is DLAA. Native resolution, 100%. If you have a 1440p monitor with the 5080, this is what you should expect. Around 80 frames per second, 90 sometimes. That's not too bad, actually. I expected a bit higher, honestly, not gonna lie. But again, this game is really intensive. Also, the GPU temperature is really low because the room where I am is very, very cold at the moment. And it's also pushing a lot less power than usual for a 5080, so that's why. But yeah, 230 watts outside, as you can see, 100 FPS. It's going to be a good experience. I wouldn't utilize the upscaling part of DLSS, so DLSS quality, for example, here at 1440p, because then you can start noticing the noise on the water, and the internal resolution is a bit too low for my taste, 960p, all right? So DLAA is the way to go, in my opinion, here. It works great. It looks awesome, of course, especially on a native 1440p monitor. And yeah, it gets you good FPS, 60 plus 100% of the time. And now let's try it at 1080p resolution, okay? And this is where I start telling you guys that if you have a 1080p monitor with an RTX 5080, you should upgrade your monitor ASAP. Because, I mean, yes, we're getting higher FPS, but we're getting very similar FPS at the same time as we saw with performance DLSS at 4K resolution, right? And that looked 4K. The visuals were 4K, all right? And that's a lot better looking than the blurriness that you get on a 1080p monitor, my friends. I would never play like this, but if you have a 1080p display and you want to upgrade later, and now you're playing your games at 1080p, I think I would still wait until you upgrade your monitor to experience these single-player beautiful titles at max visuals, you know, the best as you can. I'm not saying that this looks bad. It doesn't look bad, but it does look bad compared to 1440p native resolution and also compared to 4K DLSS quality, DLSS performance. It still looks better, in my opinion, though, just because it's not noisy than FSR quality at 4K. But yeah, I just can't really stand sometimes the FSR3 look, and especially in this title is really rough with a lot of noise and pixelation and so on, so don't. And now I just got out of the game because I got one more thing to try. And I'll need to set the actual desktop to this resolution. This is 7680 by 4320, which is 8K resolution, guys. And I'm about to test it out at full-on 8K res with a 5080. So it requires almost 21 gigabytes of VRAM to run 8K maximum settings with DLAA, all right? And we only have 16, so we will have some issues, obviously. And here we have it. This is the experience at 8K max settings on a 5080. So it swapped a lot of things into RAM already. You can see 25 gigabytes of RAM usage, and the VRAM allocation and usage aren't really maxed out, but they already did max out and swapped. That's why they aren't pegged at 16 gigabytes there. So sometimes you can get 5 FPS, sometimes it will drop down to 1. This is the sharpest that this game has been so far in this video, for sure. But there's single-digit frame rate, so absolutely completely unplayable. And this is the point of the video where I'm just experimenting things. Obviously, no one is going to play like this, and no one should play at 8K with a 5080. This is way beyond diminishing returns, after all. It doesn't look that much better than 4K, yet it is a heck of a lot more intensive. Well, let's try it with... Come on, DLSS, show up, please. There we go. So DLSS quality actually drops things down from 16 gigabytes of VRAM. But I want to go to performance right away because, I mean, we're starting with 5 FPS, right? Come on, I'm clicking and it doesn't change. There we go. Come on. So now with performance DLSS4, we're rendering the game at 4K resolution and upscaling to 8K, which is pretty insane. It will look better in 4K native resolution, of course. It's just like 4K performance DLSS compared to 1080p native, you know, it looks a lot better. But again, this is beyond diminishing returns. I don't think anyone should do this. But the 5080 can actually output 30 frames per second. I think with a little bit of an overclock. And remember, this area is also really intensive. With a bit of an OC, it will hold 30 plus. For sure, guys. I don't have an 8K monitor. I'm using a 4K monitor for this with Nvidia DSR on top of it, and now it can output 8K, of course, because of it. And the FPS are actually the same as a true 8K resolution monitor, native. But I cannot see the improvements as much as if I were playing on an 8K TV, for example, or an actual 8K monitor. So I'll leave it right there, guys. This was it for Last of Us Part 1 on the RTX 5080. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one very soon. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.